as we conclude for our lovely topic, our 5D collective of mentally mature and emotionally available adults who get to grow healthy relationships in life and expand themselves, we're going to use a quick tidbit from our lovely Patrick Tiahan. So 5D are mystics, spiritual, mindful, living, loving people who want and lead with a whole inner child, functional inner child adults. So they know self-regulation in the eventual energy. They know accountability and awareness. So they notice their own tones, which means not I'm going to criticize myself. It means that if I am aware of my child parts, I can tell if that tone is that paused self, that facade, that fake exile, that protector. There's a lot of different words, but it's not I'm going to bring it into the room. It's I'm going to uncharge it, work with it, and that's why the good therapist like Patrick Tiahan for childhood trauma survivors is most important. Because self-awareness, accountability, and regulation only goes as far as the person is willing to get rid of that which is a maladaptive pattern of behavior with an adaptive child who continuously breaks things down in right or wrong, lecturing others. And this is the part of where it's something possible, yes, but with the I don't know everything, which instead I've found that a bountiful of individuals think of themselves as knowing how to tell other people how to live life, like I did as a teenager. But as a teenager, I was told, you can't do that because you don't know. And I was like, you know what, you're right, I can't. So this is the moment of truth. It's only when you have the capacity to have humility, integrity, and to consistently not say to somebody in a way, I know what is right or wrong for you. You don't. You won't ever. And you creating a blanket statement is where the adaptive child, with their black and white thinking, they continue talking about each other and following people who think they can save each other. They lecture each other. They act like each other's parents. To a functional child adult, we watch it from afar and laugh like assholes because it's like, what the fuck are you doing, Peter Pan and Lost Boys? You're all pretending to be human beings who don't even know about Pat Ogden and your trauma time right now. So karma wheel is what it is. It's not dharma. They don't need to be mystics. They don't need to be spiritual. They're doing their subconscious. And in fact, it's very clear to a person like myself, the Zen master, he doesn't know how to work his own subconscious. He has no window welcome to his emotions. And his inner critic and outer critic is what the problem is. Yet he disregards it because he refuses to use neutrality language. Because as anybody else who refuses to understand how it works to create mindfulness living, and that means to empower your little brain muscle to integrate. And so when you will become aware of the beautiful elixir of neutrality and duality and of words that matter and of having an inner growth mindset versus something that shame, blames, faults, revenges, or basically is harsh, because as long as you're harsh, you're just activating your sympathetic, not activating your ventral vagal. So you're going to keep on doing what is a lot more work because your rigidity is your body in protection, not in connection with yourself and emotions and thoughts, because you refuse to adapt what is an effective modality of conversation with yourself, let alone to be able to bring it into the room with others. The ones of us who instead are very much mindfully living and loving, we like equanimity, so we have peace, we have safety, we have dignity. And when we meet people that don't know wholeness and restorative embodiment living and all of that, we don't have to engage. It's shutting it down. We shut it down by disengaging, because really we're not even having a conversation with a person. We're having a conversation with their trauma time. So a person who doesn't wield their own mind bilaterally, so that means my thoughts and my emotions, they're mine. They're not irrefutable facts. And that I don't know the right or wrong way of anyone but except me, lecturing. Okay, so your entire demeanor towards life and others is what does matter with self-awareness, accountability, and regulation. Functional child adults, we know that mental health issues should not be shunned or deserve the stigma, thank you, Patrick Tiahan, but that sometimes the clinical diagnosis is asshole. Because it's unhealthy self-worth human beings who disregard going to get all their shadows, all their exiles, everything that is theirs healed, and they actively think they know what a healthy adult relationship is. Versus no, as long as you're creating characterological distinctions and judgments with charges and thinking you know right or wrong, you don't know healthy adult anything yet, because you barely know functional adult. Identifying when your child parts come in, identifying how to uncharge them, identifying how amazing you are as a person, identifying that you, like any one of us, will have been flawed, And that if you, like any one of us, will have had what is shame, that's why EMDR, child parts work somatics, helps you to get window welcome. The Zen master doesn't want it. Some of us got lucky. We didn't get shamed, blamed, nope, no faulted, no revenged, and that's because we got to stay in our adolescent essence and our inner child. And so when I can let you know the peace, safety, and yes, dignity, integrity, the joy to live life as yourself, it doesn't get broken. And the one thing you'll always stand up for is if you meet assholes, you leave it alone. Because all they're doing at this point, as I say, Pat Ogden, it's their trauma time. So non-metabolized trauma comes forth as projection, which isn't an interaction in the first place with the person. The adaptive child isn't actually wanting to interact. They're wanting to play out what is a routine. And it's if they want out of those low frequencies and those low negative words and that mannerism. But it's a personal choice. So we don't impose on 3D, 4D collective that they get their healing done. That's something you actively can't do anyways, because they have their leaders who in fact they think are leaders, and they're not leaders to me, but the leaders, the 7 to 14 charming, who inform them of how it isn't inherently healthy or enlightenment to be non-reactive. And there's a bunch of other people who think that too. So it's them thinking that they need to be in the I can tell you what's right or wrong because I know everything. No. Or I can create this type of idea and think that it's all inclusive. The smart brain, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable, is grounded in reality, knowing that anything that I think up and feel up can be falsifiable, which is the one thing that those who have a hard time with the right mode, maximum uncertainty, so they don't like to say, I don't know, or feel it. Those of us who instead are comfortable, it's, I always don't know everything. So I'm equally knowledgeable, equally unknowledgeable. So I come in with softness, I come in with ease, I come in with the capacity again to have a beautiful moment in time in the absence of having any type of boundary, because I already have my boundaries personally for my own self. Okay, so every person thinks and feels differently. It's as you gain familiarity with your inner world. The body is your empowered feminine, and that's the divine. And the empowered divine masculine is your mind with bilateral integration. The masculine, which I call stupid at times because the ego by itself is stupid. But when it works with the right, so left mode is our chit chatter, right is our feeling center, once they are together working, because technically it's only through your practice that they'll do that. Otherwise, they'll turn each other off. When the left's working, the right's not. So that's what mindfulness practices, mindset, and mind sight function for. But it's only once you're aware of all of that which is coming up, and you can actually contain it, as Peter Levine points out, and you contain it, but not to suppress it. You contain it to then talk about it. Talking about sadness, talking about anger, talking about all of it, talking about the child parts that came up if you have different words, but you talk about it so that you can disengage from it. So you don't grow without your whole self, which involves your child parts, coming into the picture, which is why our healthy adult relationships, those empowered counterparts, are the gift to each other, because the reality is, sure, I can be myself in peace and in safety and in dignity and in integrity and all that, a solo self all by myself, yes. But it's once you get a relational field going between one and more that you're going to be given the opportunity to allow yourself to empower the functional child adult. And that's the fun part, because also true love is that. True love is people wanting each other to expand. And even if you meet individuals who have a low frequency, their low frequency is their inner child unhealed. And that's their business, not yours. So their dysregulated nervous system is not going to affect yours if you're able to put into practice mindset skills, mindfulness, and mindset with you in mind, because, oh, look, 2 seconds ago I was good. Right now I'm perceiving another person's nervous system. Differentiation, as Dr. Daniel Siegel informed me. He's like, just differentiate more, Maria. And it works. That's called my prefrontal cortex keeps staying down. I know what my nervous system was in 2 seconds ago, so it's not mine. I don't need to present it to you, because actively, when you meet people who lack self-awareness, accountability, and regulation, even if you do present a conversation, their demeanor continues to be in that of an asshole, which is why the clinical diagnosis of an asshole is correct from Patrick Teahan from his share for today, because some people, they don't give a shit about going to get out of everything that is basically a inner child who needs to be reparented. Because dysregulation is when you are in your sympathetic dorsal vagal. So one, you have shame, blame, fault, revenge. You got attitude. You got a left brain alone. I got no left and right going on, so I got trauma time person. I got the past. I got a 0-8-year-old in front of me with a 16-year-old attitude. You better bet that equanimity is the way that a true leader stands, which is silence, so that I can get out of that interaction as soon as possible in an effort to return to my own sense of peace and ease. Again, healthy adults won't do the we're gonna leave it. It's a awareness of interacting. So the more you practice being self-aware, accountable, and regulating, the more you practice I'm going to be at ease. I'm going to be my differentiated self, linking to another differentiated self. So I don't know right or wrong. I don't lecture. I don't dictate. I don't do any of that. Nobody's parents, partners, people, team. We are listening with mindful ears. Like Terry Real points out, we're relational mindfulness people. That's a muscle. Like Dr. Dan Siegel will point out, integration, it's through mindfulness mindset that you create the muscle. So your brain is how you use it. And the non-bilaterally integrated brain people, they're just doing trauma time on a wheel. So we leave that again alone. And the capacity to be aware is easy. Because drama is something that only I saw as normal personally as a teenager. And I didn't do drama, which is why people are like, you don't have feelings or you're pretending. And the fancy lady in a suit reminded me of those years because she writes, it's dangerous to have no emotions, as she's wielding her mouth to say that it's not inherently enlightenment or healthy to be non-reactive because she doesn't know how to do it. And I know instead what non-reactive means. It's our mammalian heritage is health, which I'm consistently in because my prefrontal cortex can work because I'm owner of Maria's emotions and thoughts and body. And I won't project to you my feelings. I won't make it your fault, and I won't be culpable for your feelings either because I don't regulate your nervous system. You do. So the fact is that you can take ownership of that. It's none of my business what you're doing. And furthermore, when people don't notice that they're not regulating in their fun nervous system, well, again, I've seen it all. So the reality is, I found it hard to believe my first years of life means shit, and I'm not decent enough to be saluted are just two random examples of human beings who think they know shit and they don't. They actively aren't living the best highlight of their lives in their sympathetic nervous system or dorsal vagal, yet they do think they do, like Pinocchio on that island, and like anybody else who's a buffoon who doesn't actually say, you know what, I want to go get integrated. And we have plenty of experts who are saying, it's dangerous, how dare they support yoga, mindfulness, meditation, it's all, because they too lack the in-depth education on the subject matter. So they lack the in-depth education, means the neuroscience, means they lack also the neurobiology. Yes, that we have some who will, like Robert Sapolsky with Determined, say we don't have free will. It doesn't mean you can't work with your brain. Your brain has neuroplasticity. And your brain and mind and body and self are yours. So if you reclaim your child parts, if you get secure attached, you will be able, as Dr. Daniel Siegel has pointed out in the studies that they've seen in the time, Bessel van der Kolk too, it might take 20 years, but you still will be able to heal. So the willpower of people and their health is the capacity for them to go on a journey with even a Pat Ogden and get those non-metabolized trauma charges metabolized. And no, you don't quick and done. And it's not always through talk therapy either. And that's why we have an entire equipe of smart researchers and therapists of different groups. They have so many different titles that no person who is a mystic or a spiritual, mindfulness, loving, living practitioner, Reiki, all of it, Akashic record reader, we don't substitute those who are awesome at what they're learning. And we don't substitute because we work as a pair, we work as teams, but also because, again, neuroscience is so in depth. I've only touched upon it, and I will continue to do so, but there's so many different amazing, important, smart people. The idiots have stories for you. You'll always spot the idiot if you're a smart brain, because exactly what I said, they have a story for you. If your brain knows what data is, you know when to find quantitative, you'll hear it. Okay, here's the data, give it to me. Qualitative, okay, I'll save that for later. Here's the idiot with a story from yesterday's news, because I will know of the medieval times, I will know of gender stereotypes, I will know of everything that is completely ignorant. Also, the energy calls it. It's just complete low frequency. And with that being said, Peter Levine, PhD, as long as they can isolate the sensations, be able to focus in a soft way on the sensations and allow them to change, then the panic anxiety loses its grip. I have had the panic attacks, as my lovely regular viewers and listeners know, many, many years as my light body expanded, light body, light body, light body, rainbow body. I've had Kundalini awakening. I can also completely use Peter Levine and what I've learned from him in courses that I've taken about the freeze response. For example, it doesn't dismantle my belief in God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. It doesn't dismantle my intuitiveness, my mystic journey. It doesn't make me say the spiritual plane is fake, and it doesn't make me say we have to prove it. This is the other part of 5D mystics. I'm calling them that, but anyone true spiritual isn't going to be proving it. We come together and we know that we don't prove it. Some of us have this journey, others don't. And the scientists actually help people who want to tap into the sphere of consciousness to be able to do so if they choose to bring their whole self online. So the reality is science and spirituality coming together. What I was trying to say is that I know of my journey with the oversoul and twin flames and soulmates and all that, and astral travel, you name it. But I also can know what freeze response is, and I also can equate them. And in either cases, it doesn't make an empowered human being who has their 0-1-year-old, 3 to 7, their freeze, their 11-12, their fight 14, 15, 16. So all my child parts, my personality patterns, my attachment. And then this is that part of identity. So when you don't know who you are, this is where people cling on to a self-constructed identity. And as Dr. Daniel Siegel shares in his lovely Wheel of Awareness, which I've learned and I can integrate and I am planning on for the masterclass in the future, you work with both the relative and the universal. And he's talking about the Buddhist, I'm guessing, psychology. But you allow yourself in time to become for a formless source as you do notice that you have these plateaus and these infinite planes of possibilities, but that they don't need to be rigid. And that's where flexibility, adaptability, coherence, energized, and stability come forth. However, it's also when you realize that when you're alone, again, that's very easy to be able to consistently expand. It's even more amazing when you're able to do that in a safe space with the person and or people that want you to be who you are because they cherish who you are as you are. And that inner child just the way they are. And that's where we find our functional child adults who don't use the tone of an asshole. They use no tone except for one of curiosity, openness, acceptance, and love. That's with you. And with curiosity, meaning I'm not going to dictate what your right or wrong way to live is. I'm not going to lecture you about it. I'm not even going to assume that I know that. That's going to be something that I don't do. So when you have a person who is empowered, they don't come in to tell others and each other how to manage life, how to do life, but it's something that you acquire once you are whole yourself. What I've noticed most of all is 3D, 4D are teenager versions of themselves, but they're really grown-ups who are still saving their inner child. They're not a functional child adult. They are walking around with their 16-year-old, sharing their story, sharing their superhero capes and supervillain capes, and they're doing the I'm right and the other people are wrong, and let me give you all the list of my resources and all my methodologies, and here you go. That's the one thing that you're going to know, which is why they're limited consciousness, which is why they're dumb to a person like me, meaning it's not something I need, but sure, I'll grab whatever golden nuggets come in. But in the meantime, I'm actually wanting to learn from the smart ones, the researchers, the actual academics, the ones who give me the data that then I bring in together and make a bigger picture, because you're just giving me what you would have wanted, what they would have wanted. Peter Pan's and Lost Boys have a very closed environment, and that's because the brain and the mind is not expanding their identity. So they have the rigidity, and losing that identity. You don't lose it if you're consciously aware of yourself and that your personality patterns don't make who you are, but that you are. You use your human name. That way you can at least have one point of reference, and then you acknowledge my thoughts and emotions come with a past, with my society, with my culture, with my primary first 8 years of life and any narrative that was sold to me, these sentences that people will have gotten. But then from your 8 to your 16, you enter into this other phase, and really the adolescent brain is where you can begin to break free from that and begin your dharma versus doing karma. It's really fun. We'll be back with more on that note, because that's what our collective, it's all about expansion of consciousness, and we don't stop expanding. Some people call it changing, growing. I like the word growing. And in fact, this is the part of where empowering partners bring to each other that opportunity, as well as just empowering individuals that you choose in the long run to share spaces with, though. This is where being yourself by yourself, very easy. It's when you're going to be yourself with an other that is going to be the opportunity for you to continue to let that function or child adult be vibrant. And you do that, as Terry points out, knowing that you want to clearly communicate the relational mindfulness, and people who are in the 5D collective are not afraid to let themselves speak, because you can't risk losing a person. True love is accepting and expanding each other, and consistently. This doesn't change over time, because that's what love means, that we welcome each other with the differentiated self. It's really easy, actually, but that's because I come from an environment, my household, where I was taught unconditional love. Jesus reaffirmed it, so did God. And in fact, anybody who makes God out to be a monster, I don't even bother with that. The Holy Spirit, Reiki, universal love, energy, a lot of words that I didn't know as a kid, and as I grew up, I was like, wow, it's amazing. Our spirituality group, it's that big now. And then you got the ones that are like, we need to prove spirituality, and it's the Luciferian era, and you're like, wow, scarlet letter times, have a good time, see you later, alligators. By the way, the future is looking bright for those of us who are of the 5D collective, we know. So with that being said, again, thanks for stopping by. We'll be back with more. Have a good one.